Well, hi everybody, and welcome to another edition of Coffee with Craig, where myself, Craig Hamilton Parker, a psychic medium, looks into the future and considers some of the things that are happening in the world and what is likely to occur. And we're going to today look at the royal family. I'm going to make some predictions for 2026 and beyond, and give you some of my insights and some of my feelings about what I feel will happen. So today's date is the 27th of October. 2025, and welcome to Coffee with Craig. Well, thanks again for joining me, and welcome to the show again. And if you're here for the first time, please do subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up if you've here many times, because it helps that algorithm, as I say. And if you really do enjoy these shows, always appreciated if you can become a patron, and all that's in the description below, because if you become a patron, it helps the channel to thrive, helps me to have the time to do this. And of course, I can do little extras for the patrons as well. Okay, well, this video is coming hot on the heels of one I've done a few days ago about Prince Andrew. So I thought, well, we're going to start doing my 2026 predictions. Let's start with the royal family and give you some of my thoughts about that and what I see for 2026. Now, it's already been quite a awful period for the royal family, particularly with the onset of so much illness and so forth. Since the death of Queen Elizabeth, I think the royal family's been through one of the most rocky patches ever, really. And it's almost like a tragic story, really. It's like a Greek tragedy in so many ways, of the way King Charles, as I said when I predicted he would come to the throne after I predicted the death of Elizabeth and that he'd come to the throne. And you see in some of the shorts I've put up and things that I predicted that his would be a short reign. And sadly, I feel that short reign is now coming to its conclusion. Because nobody likes to make dark predictions about these things, but sadly, I have to say that I do feel that the Charles is a lot more ill than is being reported. He's a very brave man. He does a very good job, I feel. He's he's worked hard to keep in the public eye, but it's becoming much more difficult for him. He's doing less public engagements, and I feel so much more of the energy is now beginning to shift to Prince William. And sadly, my thought is, and my feelings are, that he doesn't have much more time with us at all. I think he'll get through 2025, but I feel early into 2026, we will see the death of King Charles. And my thoughts are this may be sometime in February, because I saw that when I was tuning into this, I saw that as a very dark date. So my feeling is we may lose King Charles in February 2026. It's a possibility he could go before Christmas, but I felt if I saw his Christmas address to the nation and the King's speech this year, I feel will be particularly poignant, and he will reveal many of his personal problems and tragedies, and almost be announcing that he's a lot more ill than he is. And I see a king's speech that's going to focus on quite religious themes in many ways. He's had his visit with the Pope, which I feel was very profound. It's certainly, in terms of the history of kingship, it's one of the most profound events you could have when you study British history, and particularly looking back to Henry VIII, who of course was not related to King Charles, but nonetheless was the history of kingship has been a battle with the Catholic Church throughout British history and Scottish history, and the conflicts that have occurred in Britain between Catholicism and the Church of England and so forth. So that was quite a momentous thing. And I feel Charles wanted to do this as being like the defender of the faiths, as he called himself. So this Christmas, King's speech, I feel will be very poignant and very moving, and it will almost be a man's last words to the nation, because I feel that his illness by that time has become much more pronounced, even though he shows a good face even then. But I do feel that he's on his way to the next life. So, and some say that, a lot of this troubles we've had with Prince Andrew has not been properly addressed. And as I've been saying, it's being kicked down the road all the time. And the can's been kicked down the road partly because the king does not want to deal with this and feels his time is short, and he'd rather leave his brother alone and let all that be sorted out after his death. And William will certainly sort out Prince Andrew in a much more robust way than we have seen up to now, which I think has been, quite a weak response, really. I said before I saw like a royal carriage being carried and bagpipes and things I saw. Maybe it's Prince Charles that I was seeing in that earlier prediction I made where I talked about some of my dreams, you remember. So sad, I feel, because, I think Charles has done a good job up to now, and I'm sure we would all still send him our positive thoughts. And let's hope that I'm wrong. And we can be wrong, of course, because we see these things through a mirror darkly, as I say. And life can still be preserved by the power of positive thought, because we all know people who have had cancer, and we often know people who've recovered from cancer. So, it's not set in fate. There is no fate, they say. But those are my feelings for when I look into 2026. I feel that I'm feeling that is there, and that Vatican visit has triggered in Charles many spiritual thoughts about his way forward. So this means that if I'm right with what I'm saying, which I do feel this is what I see here, I see William being crowned. I feel Charles passes in like February time, but William will be crowned, and we will see in William, I feel, a very compassionate king on many levels, but also a very robust and strong king as well, who won't take any nonsense from the likes of Prince Andrew, who I've already spoken about at length in another video. And I see in the press today that he's now asking about wanting 2 houses. It's all come up across the press. I was saying I saw him getting 2 houses. I said I saw a house here in the UK and another one abroad. Maybe I was seeing part of it perhaps there, because it's like you want 2 houses, one for me, one for Fergie. So maybe still I didn't see him in like in a Windsor type house. I feel maybe they make a temporary arrangement, but when William comes, I feel that he will push Andrew out once and for all, and we won't see him on estates like Windsor or royal estates. We'll see him off royal estates, maybe being paid off by a lump sum to be rid of them once and for all. Anyway, we'll come back to that in a moment, but let's return to the crowning of King William. I suppose it'd be King William V, won't he? I think it'll work out. So I see him removing the titles from Andrew. And I feel that William will live very much in the spirit of the way his grandmother um, treated the royal family. It's like he will take her as his model rather than his father as his model for his kingship. So he'll rule in a similar way to Queen Elizabeth, who was, very, very dedicated, quite conservative, and also very tough. And I feel that that will become his style. And I see him also removing the titles of Harry and Meghan, and this will come quickly into his reign. So this could be, if I'm correct in what I'm seeing, in 2026, Harry and Meghan will have their titles removed. And to do this, there will have to be parliamentary changes, but I see William pressing for parliamentary changes, and those changes will happen later in 2026. It will happen after the death of Charles. Now, the royal family has become quite weakened by the fact that so many members have had to be have either died or have been put into who've abused power and are no longer seen as suitable, such as Harry and Meghan and Fergie and Prince Andrew and so forth. So I see an actual a threat to the royal family itself, because I predict there's going to be a assassination attempt on a member of the royal family. Now, whether that is who it is, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's William. I feel there's going to be an attempt on William's life, and there's very, very hard to get through the tremendous security that would surround him. But you never know. You get insider jobs, and I get a feeling there's something where there's an attempt. And I say an attempt because I feel that attempt on his life will actually fail. And I did mention about something like this some years ago, because I did see it seemed to be associated with flights, aeroplanes or helicopters. Some flight type thing was associated with this. So let's see what happens. My feeling is I'm seeing that as a potential very much in 2026. And I feel it will fail. Just as I said before, I saw an attempt on Trump's life, and I said it would fail. It would be a near miss. You couldn't get much more of a near miss than what happened. So let's see if my intuition's right about this, the failure of that. Now, William will turn with a vengeance on Harry, I sense. And he, in many respects, I'm seeing him almost being compared, perhaps the press will do this, compare him to Richard the Lionheart and Harry as King John. If you know your history, King John was considered they were brothers, they were at each other's throats, and King John was considered the sort of the traitor to the kingdom, and Richard was considered the Lionheart. But I saw this vision of him like Richard the Lionheart, right? Now, a part of my feeling with this is that Richard the Lionheart was involved in the Crusades. And my sense is that William will become quite Christian in his views. Now, Prince Charles has veered towards multiple faiths and being the fender of faiths, as he said, and certainly with a strong admiration in many respects for Islam, and particularly when he's visited Saudi Arabia and the kings of Saudi Arabia, and how they've combined their religious beliefs of Islam with their kingships. But I see with William him turning towards Christianity. In fact, I'm seeing a great turning towards Christianity in the UK generally. Actually, now I'm saying that this not as someone that is all for making everybody Christians, because I don't consider myself really of the Christian faith to the extent that, that's my strongest faith, because as you know, I incorporate many things. I believe there's a unity of religions, and I believe in a religion that transcends all religion, as it were, a universal religion in a way, which goes beyond Christianity, beyond Hinduism, beyond Buddhism. It's like behind it all, there's this universal perennial religion, as it were, or perennial truth. But anyway, I'm going off. But I do see a sort of a rebirth of Christianity in Britain. And this will come when we see the reform government that will come in eventually. Now, whether reform can come in 2026, you'll have to wait until you watch my political forecasts. But there will be a much more of a turn this way. And I sense that William will, not immediately, but gradually through his reign, will turn much more towards a Christian faith, and much more of a traditional Christian faith, very similar to the way Queen Elizabeth had the faith, the sort of faith that believed almost in the divine providence of kings and queens. So this is partly what I'm seeing here with that, and I feel that William will be a good king. He will have a long reign. He I think Kate will go before him, but not yet, not for some time yet. And a certain sadness hangs over William's reign, I feel, which he has had already, because I saw him as a sad but compassionate king, and very driven by a desire to traditional values of what Britain is, and the unity of Britain as well. Now, Kate. We all know Kate is very ill. However, I feel with her that she fares much, much better. And in 2026, I'm seeing her getting considerable improvement, and talk of remission, and talk of her getting through this and beating it. She's obviously got something that's long lasting, because they're still talking about her illness, but I feel that somehow she's still going to beat it somehow. I'm seeing that happening with her. Now, there was another strange thing that I saw, and I'm sorry to throw these sort of odd vision type of things at you, but it's unclear to me what this was all about, because I saw something. I saw Kate stroking a horse, right? So it's like there's an incident or something with horses, something where she's doing something with horses. Now, she's not horse mad in the same way that the Queen was, or Anne is, but I saw something with it, and there was a sort of a strange humorous type of feel with this. So does she do something with horses? Does she try to do something where there's a charitable thing where horses are used in an amusing sort of way? It had a sort of a feel of like comic relief to it, and the way charity's raised using comedy. So there's something with Kate, and it's something with horses and animals, and this will be something that will be in the press. I'm sorry it's vague, but I'm putting it out there like that, and it might become clear when this event happens, and it's just something odd with horses, and there's a certain oddness and cheerful thing with this when I see this. So it's not something tragic. It's not like she's going to have a fall on a horse, although horses are important to the royal family. I know I think Anne had a fall, didn't she? But I don't know if she's got another fall with horses or something. But there was something here with Kate. I can't see her riding a horse, but I seem to be petting it. Okay, so that's what I see. And I feel much more happy with her, and I feel that with the sadness of the king, obviously these things are going to weigh very heavy on the royal family with so much loss. But that's my thoughts with that. Now, I've spoken quite a bit at length already about Andrew. I mentioned he'd have two houses, but I still feel that, okay, it's in the press now talking about that as well, but I still feel as if he's going to spend part of his time abroad and part of his time in Britain, and I don't see him on a royal estate as such. I saw Sandringham before, as if I'm in that area. Now, this might be something that is being held for when William is crowned. because I feel he will push him off the royal estates as well. It was like, give him money, but don't give him royal households. Get him out of our life. That's how I feel he's going to do that. And he will be just as harsh on Fergie as well. Now, Fergie, I feel, as I'm sensing around her, extreme emotional problems. I feel with her there's a depression, and she may need to go in for treatment. I'm seeing her in treatment, rehab of some sort. Now, she's not an alcoholic or anything, as far as we're aware. But camera blips again, sorry. But I'm seeing her like in a being treated for depression, treated for extreme stress. And in a way, I feel there will be, public will be quite sympathetic to her condition, because I feel that she'll be quite honest about the situation that's around her. Much of this, of course, is being triggered by the issues around Prince Andrew, who I also saw, in the future. I've explained other things in my other video. Go and have a look at it. I'll put it at the end of this one, actually, so you can see it if you missed it. And I saw like an unusual death around him ultimately as well. So those are the things I'm seeing around that part of the more scandalous side, I suppose, of the royal family. So he might go to Frogmore perhaps for a short time, but I can't see him there permanently. I feel William would chuck him out. I'm seeing him in a much more modern building. So it looked like a Frank Lloyd Wright building, I said, just to repeat myself from that. But this Epstein business, it's all being kept under wraps at the moment. The king is and the royal household are trying to hold back on things. And I think they're trying to hold back on America's knowledge of these things. Perhaps King Charles had a word with Trump and said, look, can you just keep it quiet about Andrew? Wait until I'm gone before you say anything, because I feel there's a lot more going to explode out of this Epstein business. And one of the things I feel, it could involve things like sexually transmitted diseases, and Andrew had been involved with things like that. So those are things I'm seeing. I mean, there's absolutely nothing out there in the press about anything like that, but I felt as if this is the type of thing that the scandals would blow up, with other people coming forward to say that they were made ill by their contact with Andrew. So, I mean, that's a pretty heavy thing. Obviously, these are things that are my opinions, but that's what I'm getting from my feelings as a psychic, So there's lots ahead. It's going to be quite a scandalous year in 2026. And of course, Harry and Meghan, I feel, are the other sort of most important characters from the royal household in terms of what we'll see in the press. I mean, there's many others in the royal household, but I'm just going to keep to the main ones for now. Jane, I think, is going to be making her own little video about this too, and have a look. I'll put her link into her channel in the description below today too for you if you want to go and have a look. She's planning to put another one up, which would be interesting, because we don't watch each other's videos really, so I don't know what she's going to say, and she won't know what I've said. So it'll be interesting. I will watch this one and see if we can compare notes. Anyway, so Harry and Meghan. Now, I've said some while ago that I feel ultimately that relationship will end in divorce. We said this, Jane and myself said it on Coffee. I've said it both on Coffee with Craig and the Craig and Jane Show. Remember, we've also got another channel, Craig and Jane Show. Go and follow that one as well. We're putting up repeats at the moment, but that will be some live ones on there later. But yeah, go there. I'll put it in the description. Sorry, I'm telling you to go to the description all the time. But yeah, Meghan Markle, I've said for a long time that I feel that they would break. And I think it's 2026. I feel with the death of the king, with the rise to power of William, with the dislike of William towards Meghan and Harry in particular, I'm seeing William will remove the titles from Harry and Meghan. It'll be, again, one of the first things he does. He's going to have a major clear out. It's a bit like when someone first comes into political power. On the wave of public adornment that they get when they first, endearment, when they first appear in the public stage. They have a sort of a honeymoon period where they can put through laws. I feel it's the same with William. He will, on a sort of sway, say, look, we're going to deal with Fergie, we're going to deal with Andrew, we're going to deal with Harry, we're going to deal with Meghan. Those titles need to be removed, and it will be rules like traitors and treachery and things like that to the crown. And I feel he'll do it. And this will be the final straw in what is already a fractured relationship between Harry and Meghan themselves, because I feel that that will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And they will break up as Harry loses his title. And without the title Prince Harry, they become ordinary people. There's less public interest in someone who is not a prince, who's just an ordinary person. And I feel that this breakup that happens in 2026 and the loss of the titles will see the breakup of their marriage. And for Meghan, it will be a big thing, because for her, it will be a loss of esteem. It will be a loss of personal power. It will be a loss of control in many ways. And what I see her doing, and I see her pushing the children forward. Lilibet and Archie, I see being now pushed into the public platform, being seen by the public. And I feel that there is calls at this time for genetic tests because of the conspiracy theories that are out there about whether she really did these are the genetic line. I think that will genuinely come up for question. And there will be some public debate about this, about we want to see the genetics just to shut the media up, if anything. The children will stay with Meghan. And I feel that they will stay in America and won't come back to Britain. And with the loss of the royal lineage down with them, I think the need for them to come back to Britain will become less. And with the death of Charles, their granddad, that's again less reason for them to have to become British citizens. So what's going to happen to Harry? Because I feel he's going to be a very lonely man. I have said this for a long time, that once his relationship with Meghan breaks, my sense is that he will become completely disillusioned with America and that whole world that he's living in the somewhat hollow world of the Hollywood type of fantasy. Will just pop. And I'm seen as a very desperate man that's very alone and a very isolated figure who is not particularly liked by the British public, is despised by his by William and his brother and the rest of the royal family. I think, would not want to be associated with him after this. So I'm seeing him as quite an isolated figure. But I see him still having a role of some sort, and actually a bit of an epiphany in his life. I'm seeing him being sorry and saying sorry to people, which has been far from anything he's done so far. It's always been on the attack. But I'm seeing him actually befriending people in the music industry, strangely enough, because I saw Harry doing something which had a feel of like Glastonbury. Now, I can't really see him at Glastonbury as such, but it had a feeling, something to do like that. And maybe it's something like Bob Geldof's Band-Aid that they did in the past to raise money for Africa. I get a feeling that he's going to be doing something like that. There's going to be some TV type thing that's going to be an international type money raising thing, perhaps for somewhere in distress, a Gaza type situation, or again a disaster of some sort that's going to affect us in 2026. And I see him kind of remaking himself through that type of thing. So he will fall hard, and he will feel the fall hard, but he will pick himself up, and he will make a new life for himself, and gain a more philanthropic type of energy to him again, um, and rebuild his life. And eventually he will come back to Britain. He will come back to Britain, and live here, possibly in Scotland. But I see him connected with Britain again. After a period of in the wilderness, he would be kind of still in America and moving around and things like that. So maybe not exactly in 2026, but I do feel he'll eventually settle in Britain. And the hatred that is developed between William and Harry will eventually subside, but that will take some years, and not until Harry remarries again in the future, and he has a new wife who has a totally different attitude to Meghan Markle. So those are the main things that I feel I wanted to cover with you today. I'm sure other things will come up, and like I say, have a look at Jane's stuff as well on this. And that's it, really. So there's another show. When you look at these the attitudes of people around the world, and we think about all these things, I mean, it's misuse of power out there, isn't it? Abuse of power, and an awful greed with so many people. Look at Andrew's attitude and the greed of that, and look at all the greed and the greed and misuse of power over people when we see all the stuff that happened with the Epstein stuff and that, you know. And these are the people at the head of our society who we should be looking up to. And this really is, greed particularly can become like a disease. It becomes a disease of the soul in the people we see and we talk about sometimes on this channel, and in ourselves, of course. We've got to be so careful in this period of Kali Yuga, in which these kind of forces can become easily alive in people. And it would be so nice, wouldn't it, if the people who we looked up to, and we don't necessarily look up to the royal family, but they're there as figureheads. If we could look at them and feel, you know, here are decent people. I think with William in particular, we're going to see a bit more better sort of human values. I mean, Charles has had good values up to a point, but I think he's become very deluded with his own agendas. I think William will bring us back to basics because he's had such a harsh time of it. And with Kate as well, who's very compassionate. I'm going to call her Kate, not Catherine. I think Kate's a nicer phrase. I know you don't like it, some of you, but I mean, it's kind of a term of endearment, that really. I think with the way he has had to battle to hold his personal family together, just as with its own unit of mum and dad and the kids, as well as the problems with his father and the rest of it around them all, and his brother and all that difficulty, I feel he's going to become a very strong person who maybe he's going to be one of these that we can look at and say, yeah, there's people that are setting a good agenda and giving us good values. And I feel coming back to what Britain really stands for too, you know, and like I say, I feel like a strong Christian energy with this, which can't be a bad thing. So there's a lot ahead, and I feel that in the years ahead, and I'll have to address many of these in other programs too, but in the years ahead, I feel gradually, a little bit at a time, we'll start to see greater spirituality in the figureheads of the world. You know, and I look at people who there are people emerging in the world who do have a very strong determination with humanitarian ideas. Like Musk, for example, I think has very strong humanitarian ideas. I mean, whether you agree with the idea that we got to just open up on Mars so that we can keep civilization going, at least he's driven by this is best for humanity. Whether he's right or wrong is another question. I suppose same with Trump and people really too, and many of the other figures that are arising. They do have a agenda where they want to do something, get the world changed and get the world to become a better place. Now, these are all very kind of brash sort of mentalities here. But you imagine if we start to get in very strong spiritual figures in this way, people that are very determined to see that the world is a just place. There's people who we want, who see that the world is, you know, where there's fairness for people where there is a common humanity, and like almost like a spiritual force, and it will appear in people a few at a time. And this is what I say about, if we have a golden age, it will appear in a few people at first, and it will appear in a few people around us. And the golden age, as it were, is an age of enlightenment, an age of awakening, an age of love, an age of truth, an age of compassion. That only comes when people have changed. And people don't change all at once in some great mass movement. They change one at a time, like little lights in the sky lighting up. And that's the only way we can get enough brightness to transform the world and make it into a better place, one at a time. So let's get on that bandwagon. Let's be one of the first. Let's be the ones that wake up first. Let's be compassionate. Let's be loving people, and let's make the world a better place. And let's pray that these people that are the figureheads in the world, as it were, that many of them start to take on board better values that are better for the common good of all of us. Anyway, I'm starting to go off on a rap again. And while you're here, and I've still got your ear, if I have, don't forget I've got my AI going still with Craig's Oracle. Have a look in the description below, because I've got a 50% discount on it at the moment for 6 months, which is pretty good. So you can have a real good play with that and get quite a lot of spiritual guidance from it. And we're developing it all the time. And there's a few new things we're going to launch on it as well, which are some really interesting little extras that are going to, it gets more and more mind blowing as you go along. So have a go with it. Have a subscribe for a while and see if it's helpful to you. I've trained it basically, so it's some of the ideas that I talk about on this program are kind of worked into the software, as it were, to help you to find your way forward. Okay, common sense as well is in there, believe it or not. Okay, and thanks for joining the show again. And don't forget, I love it if people can become patrons. It really helps the channel tremendously. So again, have a look in the description below for the patrons, and I'll put up in a few seconds the videos that you can follow if you want to see some bit more. I'll stick a video up on the screen now of the last video I did on Prince Andrew if you missed it. Okay, see you soon. I'll be doing some more 2026 predictions over the coming weeks and months. Okay, bye for now. Ta-ra.